clinical sessions for this year. So for next year for June, we will be having our SLDA sessions. So there will be no clinical sessions officially. But luckily we have another speaker for this month on the 4th week who will be talking on awareness of cancer, very prominent speaker, very prominent speaker on cancer screening. So we are lucky to have him on the 4th week of the same month. Then after that it will be our SLDA sessions. So we encourage all of you to get registered for the sessions early so you get your early prize as well. And now we have here our Dr. Roshan. He is not a new person to us. We had a lengthy lecture with him on burnout and we were asking him questions, and at last we had to tell him to stop to go for dinner. So again he is here for us with a very fantastic topic, happiness in marriage life. I think it will be a wonderful topic, and I see a lot of new faces here. I'm quite happy to welcome you as well. And Dr. Roshan is a consultant psychiatrist in the Sri Lanka Army, and he is the first full-time psychiatrist to be employed in the Army. And he did his primary education from Maharama College, and he joined the forces in 1990 and currently is a colonel in the Army. He has experience in the Civil War as a medical officer from 1998 to 2001. And he obtained his overseas training in military psychiatry from Israel. And other than that, his special interests are trauma, I think it's psychological trauma management, stress management, violence, and the last topic is going to be today, family issues. So I welcome you, Doctor. We are waiting to hear from you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I must thank the organizing committee for again inviting me to give a presentation. So to Budu and you, sir, I thank you profusely, as well as all of you for being here to listen to this discourse. So as a token of appreciation, I will try to keep you up all times, because I'm sure morning was quite hectic, and you don't want to be exposed to a very boring sort of a topic to dose you out. So, so today I'll be touching upon an interesting topic. I know when we talk about this, there isn't much excitement, so it is not so surprising. However, this is something which we should not take one for granted. There is something hidden in it. So today, I think it's my duty to explain to you about the happiness in marriage. So, because it's very important in this endeavor of marriage. So, let us begin. Now, this cartoon depicts clearly, it is enjoyable, all right, marriage is enjoyable. But the question is it constantly enjoyable, frequently enjoyable? Now, she's a veteran lady in marriage, so it's her opinion. And this topic depicts clearly, this cartoon depicts clearly that, I mean, even though we marry a person with a lot of expectations, that finally we may not gain the expectations we were thinking of. So there is something in marriage. So marriage is not something that is easy to think of. I mean, being with a person until you die, if you are not hoping to divorce the particular person, all right, it's not very easy, right? So why I'm saying it's not easy? Because there is a problem. That is, we are encountered with this so-called marital distress. So if you want to know how to improve the happiness in marriage, first of all, we should have some understanding about what this marital distress really is. So let us see the causes of marital distress. Now, it is quite interesting to see that the major factors, major marital distressful factors, if you consider, are quite universal. Be it in Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, or in a very well developed country like USA. If you take the major factors of distress, it is quite universal. Contextual wise, there may be differences, all right. Still, for all, universally, there are few factors affecting this, influencing this so-called marital distress. Now, let us see what these factors are. Reciprocated negative behavior. Now, if you do something offensive or if you do something negative, inevitably the response from the other party will be negative. Say, if you say something like, definitely the response of the spouse would be, it could be positive, all right, it will be definitely negative. So, if the frequency of this negative reciprocation taking place, obviously it's a distress, all right. So the next factor we see is this reactiveness. Now this reactiveness is something like, now if you do something as a response, there will be a reaction from the other party. Now the interesting fact is that this reactiveness has an intensity. Certain people react in a very mild form, certain people react in a very intense form or hyper-inflated form. Take for example, you have family A and you have family B. Husband, as usual, forgets the birthday of the wife. This poor man in family A leaves early in the morning to work, forgetting the wife's birthday. Now, in family A, once the husband comes, what is the reaction of that spouse? නෑ මට මොකක්වත් අමතකුන්නේ නැහැ. දැන් ඔයාට මොකක් හොත්තට හිතලා බලන්න මොකක් හරි අමතක වුණා නේද? ඔයාගේ ෆන්දිනේ නේ. Right? Now there that particular spouse reacted not at a very high intensity compared to the family that I'm going to speak. Next, that is family B. In family B, what's happening? The poor old man, again, like in family A, forgets the birthday of his spouse. So he's going out early for work and coming very late in the evening, tired. Now, quite stunningly, on the part of the husband, spouse doesn't speak at all. ඔයාට මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? මොකද්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? තමයි. Poor old man, completely taken up by surprise. Right? And then he's saying, මේ අද කෑමේ හදලා නැද්ද? මට ඇඟට අමාරුයි. ඔයා හදාගන්න කැද නූඩල්ස් එකක් තියෙන? හදාගන්න. ඔයා කන්නේ නැද්ද? මං කෑවා. Now what is happening? The scenario in these two families is the same, but the reactiveness, unfortunately, has been quite different. So now, because of this reactiveness problem, right, it can be positive, it can be negative on both ways. They will inevitably have misunderstanding. Now, in family B, perhaps that poor lady may be thinking, sure එකට මිනිස්සයා දැන් වෙන එක්කෙනෙක් එක්ක මොකක් හරි නේ මම අද අපි ඉතින් දැන් වැහැරිලා ගිහිල්ලා misunderstand. That poor man, he has no time at all to think about another woman, right? Then poor communication. Because of this high reactiveness, this particular man in the family B, will he be bold enough to talk things out or negotiate things with the other lady? Because moment he start talking, what will be the reaction? Me, ani what මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මම දන්නවා. So what is happening? There's something, some problem. He doesn't want to talk at all. He will go defensive, or not offensive, defensive. So best defensive method is non-involvement. That is no talking. Then less listening, and sometimes they will prepare to counter-attack. Oh, hey, husband retorts. Wife says, ඔයගලන්ට අපි දැන් ඉතින් අපි ඉතින් අපි ගැන ඔයගලන්ට උනාවක් නැහැනේ. ඔව් නෑ තමයි. Counter attacks. Right? So this is how this distress starts to take place. So I mean the scenario or the context of both families were same, but because of the reactive problem, negative reactiveness, there is this distress, intensity of distress. Then the other problem is conflict, inability to resolve conflict. Now, I mean, you have to understand logically, both parties are different in anatomy. If they are different in anatomy, I mean, surely they have to be different in their way of thinking, emotions. If you want to have the ideal partner, you must marry your identical twin, right? Which is quite impossible. Right? Therefore, if there are people with different views, obviously conflict will take place. But the issue is not that. If you are unable to resolve the conflict, that is the place where distress will start taking place. So if you are unable to resolve the conflict, right? What will happen? Things will start to accumulate, and eventually one day වක්කඩ එකක් කරනවා වගේ බ්‍රොස් ගාලා ඔක්කොම මාරනවා. නැත්තම් ඩයරි එකක් හදුනා වගේ බ්‍රොස් ගාලා එක සැරට යනවා. Then things are over, right? Then the other is negative expectations. You know very well, if I make any, I mean, if I somehow other disturb this lady, and if there is a conflict taking place, surely I am going to suffer. So there will be always negative expectations about future conflict. So it's a big distress, because you know very well that there will be conflicts, and the most horrible aspect is that moment the conflict starts to take place, it will not resolve at all. Both of them will eventually go to bed. I mean, two beds, all right, in different beds, if you say, or different rooms or different houses, eventually. Then the other is reinforcement erosion. Now, when two people are living together, right? Now, if the interactions are very positive, right, it will be positively enhanced. You will feel very happy. Now say, husband says, "Ane oya ada hari lassanai." "Ane ne, ඇත්තද? Oh, hari lassanai." Or if she says she's cooking something, "Cha, mar sundak nenne wa na hari daksheek ne." "Nෑ. Oh, daksheek." Now see how positive things are. I mean, that man was lying from the beginning, right? I mean, but ultimately things are very positive, right? That can happen in the other way as well. "Mani oya monawada banannet nadda man danne." "Nanne? Me monawada me kෑමේ අයියෝ ඒ පාටේ හැටි." I mean, see now negatively. Now if such things take place, there will be reinforcement erosion, big issue, right? You will be utterly distressed. Now, if so, these things could happen because of a thing called habituation. Now, you know there are certain people habitually are very irritable. Always නිකන් හිටියත් මැස්සේ ගියත් right? Very irritable. And there are people really very inflexible, right? Very inflexible, like a hard rod, right? Rod at least you can kick and bend it, but this man you can't bend him at all, right? There, if he says, wife might say, මේසේ පොඩ්ඩක් මේසේ මෙතනට හරි නෑ මෙතනට හරි තමයි. හරින හරි. මේසේ චුට්ටක් ඇද වෙලා නේද? ඇද වෙලා නෑ. මේසේ එහෙමම තමයි. හරි. Now see that other particular lady, she is suffering. She can't tell anything at all. So it is because of this habituation problem. I mean, these are things that they bring from their childhood. So if you really marry a person, a woman or man, right, you are in deep trouble, right? I don't know, there must be some cues or some signals to see whether this man is having before you get married. Now here, of course, I think all of you have married, so I mean, we can't say take precautions, right? Fails to appreciate each other's effort. Now this is a very important thing, you see. I mean, say, in the first example I mentioned, now that man lied, that's true, because there was a lot of salt in the curry. But the most important thing is that that man really loved the way that lady prepared the meal. She has been preparing the meal for the last 6 hours. I mean, this man really felt sorry for the woman. My God, this woman is preparing the meal for me. I mean, she is the lousiest person in making meals, right? But still, for all, the effort is worthwhile. Now, if these people are unable to appreciate this effort, mind you, reinforcement erosion will take place. And then taking each other for granted. Now you see, now you people are veteran married people, all right? Veteran in the sense you haven't married for several times, I'm telling you. Period of marriage, right? It's long, right? That's why I'm saying veteran, right? So please don't misunderstand me, right? Now, if you are taking your partner for granted, it's something like this. If you see a nice lady walking around, she is the ideal woman for me, not the person behind me. Or say if a woman starts to talk to you, you are such a good gentleman. But if you happen to marry that particular woman in a period of 1 month, definitely she will say, the king is right? So you shouldn't take your spouse for granted, especially after 3 years of marrying your partner. Because if you are able to retain your relationship for more than 3 years, that means that partner is the ideal partner for you, right? I mean, not partners, partner, right? Right. Then, next, now since this audience is filled with academic people, I mean, I shouldn't talk non-academic things. Therefore, we will just concentrate of the theories of marital distress before we go along with the lecture. Now, I don't know whether you have heard this word, psychoanalytic, right? Now, this concept was brought about by a person called Sigmund Freud. I think some of you may have heard about this person. Now, Sigmund Freud, what he says is that if you take your mind, now mind is not a matter, you know it. Matter in the sense, padarthayak neve, mind. You can't touch it. There is no mass also. But there is a thing called mind, right? Now, if you take the mind, he says that mind is something similar to an iceberg. The top small part jutting out from the water is your conscious mind, where you have full awareness of what is going around you. Then the big submerged part is the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind, where all the all the hidden things are there. your impulses, your desires, all these things, and some are actually are given to you or inherited to you from parents. Some are actually you have acquired in your upbringing, but you have no conscious whatsoever towards this submerged component of the unconscious mind. And what he says is that your behavior is controlled by this unconscious mind, the big submerged part of the iceberg. Now he says, according to this theory concept, the interactions of the partners are determined by their individual unconscious minds. So if you are, in your case it's too late, I mean, if one happens to select a partner, if you are able to determine the other partner's unconscious mind, all right, then you can actually select the best partner according to this theory. Because what they say is that the interaction is determined by the unconscious minds. And also it says that the inner world or the unconscious mind of the two are determined by the early experiences and the intimate relationship with parents, siblings, and this is what I mentioned about that acquired thing. What you acquired through your upbringing is registered in your unconscious mind, but you have no access whatsoever to this unconscious mind according to this theory. Then I suppose I didn't confuse you all. This is just a theory, right? Then behavior. Now in behavioral concept, what they say is that your behavior is determined by the environment. That means you have no control. It's the environment that controls your behavior. So people like Watson, Skinner, they were instrumental in bringing up this concept. Now there is a principle called operant conditioning. Don't get alarmed by these technical terms. Even I got alarmed when I first came to these words. Now alarm clock has completely gone out. So operant conditioning is something like, say, if there is a reward or if something pleasurable occurs following a behavior, the particular person has a tendency to repeat that behavior. Now say, if you tell your spouse you are handsome in that attire, definitely your spouse will wear that particular kit in the morning, in the night, and during the daytime. Why? Because when she wears that, you start saying, my God, you look wonderful, right? But you are the biggest liar. However, that has worked, right? So this is what we call operant condition. Now, operant condition is very important in your marital harmony, and it can also operate towards the negative side as well. I will explain to you all. Then couples have difficulties, right? According to this theory, couples have difficulties. According to behavioral theory, low level of positive reinforcements. Now, I told you the environment is according to this theory, the environment is responsible for this behavior. According to the earlier theory, it is not the environment or anyone, it's the unconscious mind. But these people are saying it's the environment. So here, the interaction between the two determines each other's behavior. And then, now punishment or negative reinforcement. That is, now say, I mean, if you are very harsh on your spouse, right? If you are very harsh on the spouse, there will be a lot of negative things operating eventually. Right. Then another concept brought about by a person called Ellis. It's called rational emotive therapy. It's a quite old theory. This particular person has written 800 articles, he has written 200 books, and he died in 2007. So most of the time he has been writing, talking. Anyway, he's a very eminent psychologist, very well appreciated eminent psychologist. What he says is that everything determines according to a tendency. The tendency, it could be a rational tendency or it could be an irrational tendency. That means all of us has a rational tendency as well as an irrational tendency. And he says further that a person's reactions are determined by 3 steps. Step A says that, say, an incident takes place. Step B is how you appraise it, and the C is the reaction component of it. For example, if the wife says, if the husband is watching the television and wife wants to tell something, but he's watching the cricket tournament in the television, that's the worst of the worst, right? On both sides, right? And then the wife is trying to tell that the children, there's a problem with the child, but that poor old man or that rotten man, or from the wife's perspective, is watching the television. Now wife starts to think, now wife is appraising, step B, this man is an idiot. This man doesn't care me or my child a hoot. He is so nasty character. This is not right. He is violating my rights. This idiot or this donkey is watching the television when I'm trying to come out with a very important thing. Now what happens? Step C. She starts saying, right? See, and then the wife is having lot of negative emotions. So this is what rational emotive concept teaches us. And in this they say there are, the words, the way that we use our words determines the relationship. Now for example, intolerable and difficult to accept, right? If you say, මට දැන් ඇති තිත්ත වෙලා ඔයාව තිත්ත වෙලා පොල් පිටෙන් කැපවන හොඳයි ඊට වඩා මේ හස්බන්ඩ් කෙනෙක් කියලා කිව්වොත් ඒ වගේ එකක් මං හිතන්නේ ජීවිතේටවත් අහන්න හොඳ නැති එකක්, right? You can say something like මේ ඔයා කොහොම කරන්න එපා ඒක හරි නෑනේ කියන එක. See how nice you can put it. Instead of saying අයියෝ ගන්න දෙයක් නෑ ඔයා මට නම් තරහා ගන්න බෑ තවදුරටත් මම මේක නවත්තනවා මේ මැරේජ් එක කියලා කියන එක මම කියන්නේ. That's right. So it's how horrible it is. You can use these words. Say if the husband spills the cup of coffee. Usually those are things that can happen. Then wife is furious. අයියෝ තුන්වෙනි සැරේටත් කෑවා. මට නම් ඉතිත්ත වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කිව්වම ඊට උඩ කිව්වන අනේ ඔය හලන්න නැතුව ඉන්නකෝ අප්පා කියලා කියන එක. See the words you use, right? And then now this is also a problem, right? Demand rather than express as desires. Now wife says, right? Say I'm sorry. I'm not a person towards. Gender bias is not something accustomed in me, right? But don't worry. I will put the negative side to the husband as well, right? Now say husband after a tearsome day coming home around 6 o'clock in the evening, wife suddenly says, that's a picture of Baranan. That's the worst of the worst. If you are going to face it. Aye, me Saradiyal kira picture එකක් තියෙනවා. අනේ සරදිය දැන් බලන්න බෑ අපි ඕක අපි ටෙලිවිෂන් එකේ යන තන් චුට්ටක් කියමුද? ඒතර අපි ඔක්කොටම බලන්න පුළුවන් නේ. පොඩක් ටීක මේ අර දැම බලන්න යන්න. Now what is the problem? The problem is wife wants affection. But instead of she is saying that I need affection, she put it in a different way. She is demanding, right? So So I mean, these are hidden things that I suppose you must be experiencing or you must be practicing, right? So again, this negative thing. Then again, there's another concept called cognitive behavioral concept. This is little alike with rational emotive therapy. In fact, this theory evolved after rational emotive therapy, and I mean, people are more towards cognitive behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral perspectives. Now, what they say is that the behavior is determined by the way you think, the way you appraise. I mean, this is very similar to rational emotive perspective. So, in this theory, it says that misunderstanding. I mean, misunderstanding. I mean, very easily you can misunderstand your spouse. I mean, you will not misunderstand your mistress. However, you can misunderstand your spouse. I mean, don't get upset, mistress. I mean, the person who do the odd things at home. So then generalization. That means sometimes generalization in the sense, say if the husband forgets something, wife might say, my God, this man forgets all the things, right? Generalization, right? It's the way the person thinks. Then untested assumptions. I mean, very easily you can go into assumption. Now when the husband starts doing this, wife starts staring at him and say, hari ni office lalu secretary kau, right? Okay. And automatic negative thoughts. Now, automatic negative thoughts are, say, these thoughts you have no control whatsoever, right? Say, if your spouse if your spouse say told you something like, "Nee, ඔයාට තේක හදාගෙන බොන්න මට නම් බොන්න බෑ තේක. මට හදාන්න බෑ මම අද නිදිය කරනවා." I mean, see how nice the words were articulated, right? Then what sort of thoughts start coming to you? I mean, these thoughts, I mean, you are not deliberately harboring these thoughts. These thoughts come spontaneously, right? And these thoughts will distort all the things in your mind, right? So these are negative thoughts. The other good example is that when the husband comes late in the evening, මේ වෙනදා මේ හතරට එන මිනිස්සයා මේ මොකද මේ තාමත් නැත්තේ කෝල් එකක් දීලා බලනවා කෝල් එක engage හරි 40ක් පැන්නනේ හරි right. So you see these negative thoughts, you have no control whatsoever, right? So these are what called in cognitive behavior. Then expectations. I mean, expectations. You want the spouse to be perfect, 100% perfect. I mean, sometimes certain expectations are unachievable, but you have these expectations. SLDA වගේ ලස්සන කෙනෙක් බලා ගන්න බෑ anything. I mean, even if you marry SLDA in other months, 1 month or 2 months, you would prefer දෙනවක හාමිනි වගේ කෙනෙක්, right? I mean, this is natural, I mean, right? You go for a variation, right? I will talk about it in later. Absolute rules, yes, all these. Then systems. Now what they say is that systems. What they say is that family operates according to a system. This is called the system theory. Every family operates according to system. You can't find two similar families. All families operate according to system. Either the husband is very strong, either the wife is very strong, or the children are getting stronger, or the unfortunate mother-in-law is getting strong, right? I mean, this is a system, right? So there is a system called enmeshment. In enmeshment, it's not a very healthy system. in enmeshment, what happens is that one spouse starts to poke all the things in his life. දැන් අද ටයි එක දැම්මද වැවුද මේක කො ගන්න සපද පොලිස් right enmeshment ඊට කෝල් එකක් දෙනවා what is happening මොකද වෙන්නේ දැන් කොහෙද ඉන්නේ නෑ දැන් මම මේ සෙක්‍රටරිත් එක්ක කවුද සෙක්‍රටරි මොකද නම right so enmeshment right enmeshment so the vice versa it was like that right so enmeshment is a big issue. Then circularity causality. This is very interesting. A and B's action. Now say husband is shouting at the wife. Wife in return shouts at the husband. So who is at responsible? Who is responsible for this? Who is at fault? Husband or the wife? Huh? Don't worry, I'm not telling you who came first, the egg or the chicken, right? No, I mean, who's at fault? Now, according to this theory, they say both are at fault. But the interesting part is that wife shouts at the husband, and then wife is shouted back by the husband, and by doing so, wife eventually gets the attention. So this is a good way of getting the attention from the husband. I mean, instead, just imagine if you have a husband who does not speak to you, and however much you shout at him, he says, "What? Man, kine there enad? Ne? Wada gedera enna?" Right? See, that you are actually like speaking to a wall, right? Right? It's a big problem. Now, so the system goes like that, system theory. So it's very difficult for you to come out from the system theory. Right, okay. I'm sorry, I mean, these are theories, so it's really, it is really boring as well as it's confusing. Right, now we'll go into a very interesting topic. How to resolve mental distress. Now, so far now I think you are completely enshrined with a lot of knowledge of mental distress, and you can actually now you have the knowledge to make the other person distressful with these theories. That is also part of the objective, right? Now, how to resolve the mental distress? Because if you are going to make the other person distressful, you also should have the antidote. So now I am going to give you the antidote, right? Okay. Yeah, behavioral exchange. What do you mean by behavioral exchange? Behavioral exchange. Activities are designed to satisfy. Now, this is a very good logic. There is a thing called reciprocal negotiativity. I'm sorry with this jargon, right? Don't forget about the jargon anyway. Now, as I told you at the beginning, your spouse, at the very beginning, your spouse appeared to be the ideal person in the entire world for at least 1 week, right? But eventually it was a nightmare in the 2nd week, right? However, that is quite reasonable. Why? Because anatomically the other part is different. I'm sure you don't have doubts about that. Anatomically the other partner is different. Therefore, other partner is obviously a different person from all aspects. So, what is happening here? If both have to live together, well, you have to negotiate. Well, you better tolerate my behavior. I will tolerate your behavior, and I would like you to enhance the things that I prefer, and I will try to enhance the things that you prefer. So that is the negotiation you are going to do. So here, what you have to do is, you have to design activities to satisfy each other. So remember, marital satisfaction is not something passive. It will not come from පිනට එනවා වගේ එකක් නෑ. කරුමෙත් නැති වෙනවත් නෙවෙයි. හරි? පිනට එන්නෙත් නෑ. පින් පව් කෙලෙකුත් නෑ. You have to work very hard. very hard for your marital satisfaction. If you are not using your efforts, definitely it will not just come like that. So I'm really tired because I'm really using all my energy for the marital satisfaction. That's why I'm trying to tell you all as well. Right. Then so here what we are trying to do is we are trying to control our marital happiness. Right? Marital happiness is your responsibility. Right? It is not the responsibility of the other partner. There's nothing like that, right? You have to establish control of the mental happiness, right? Then pinpoint the behavior that make a big difference, right? Good day and bad day, right? Now when you wake up in the morning, you tell something nasty to the other partner, me gorowan නැතුව ඉන්නකෝ අප්පා. Then again තාත්තා මේ ඉක්මනට තේ හදලා දාන්නකෝ අප්පා. Right? I mean, eventually that person will also do something nasty, and then at the mid of the day also you feel very uncomfortable, and when you feel uncomfortable, definitely you will ventilate your distress on somebody who is very passive. අපි කියමු පියනි වගේ මනුස්සය මේ මනුස්සයෝ මේ කියනකො ලියුම් කවරේ තමයි තේරෙන්නේ නැද්ද ඔය කියලා. So see, then again that man does something and then you feel again horrible. So eventually you start blaming all this occurred because of that woman, right? So what they are saying is that you have to pinpoint the behaviors that make the difference between women. So say accidentally if you happen to say that was an accidental remark, right? That day wife was also really happy. Now these are places where you can actually earmark. Right. Then maintaining a good marriage requires daily effort. That's true. That's something I mentioned. Again, activities. Right. Then again, you can induce short-term positive changes for the immediate. Now, say if you are under distress, I mean immediate. You can මේ අද මම රෝස් මල් ටිකක් ගෙනාව ඔයාට she might say something like that, or he might say something like that, but some changes will start taking something like that might take place. Still it's good positive. I mean, after all, he or she is your spouse, right? Then enhance new senses of collaboration, right? I mean, when you do something, you get the other party also to contribute something to it, right? Collaborations. So that sense of collaboration. Family එක අරන් යන්න. මගේ secretary තමයි wife, මම තමයි සභාපති, something like that. I mean, you don't have to tell it in openly. I mean, you must allow her to understand that, right? Then, yeah. Now, say, I mean, your spouse has good things, and your spouse has things that makes you feel miserable. I mean, it is true. Now, what they are trying to do, what this sentence is emphasizing, it says that try to focus on the good aspects than the negative aspects. Now, unfortunately, we focus on the negative aspects than the positive aspects, right? That is something unusual, or not unusual. That is something very obvious, usual. Yes. Sorry. The last thing is actually when you go to the counselor. That is the term counselor. Right. Now, what this says is that the thought that you have the emotions. Now, emotions. Now, this question if I ask from you, do we want emotions? Why? Yes, true. Because the coloring of our life, the colorfulness of our life is determined by the emotions. I mean, it's like the taste. I mean, you must have little bit of bitterness, you must have some little bit of sourness. Too much sweetness also will make you feel miserable or uncomfortable. If you have the blending of all these senses, then it is very tasty. Likewise, if you have the blending of all these emotions, right, it's very interesting. But the problem is the intensity of emotions. Too much happiness also is a problem. Too much sadness is obviously a problem, right? Little bit of anger also, I mean, all right. I mean, just to make a small kick, right? I mean, I'm not telling you to kick your spouse. I mean, say to have a small kick, right? So, little bit of everything is important. But the problem is that the intensity of emotions are determined by the thoughts. So that's why we have to contain our thoughts. I mean, that's also taught in the Buddhist philosophy as well. So we have to learn to look at it differently, even it is partly true. Say, when you go home, if you see your spouse has made a big mess out of everything in the veranda or in the bedroom or in the kitchen, right? You must look at it in a very different way. The poti venasak vela ne. Instead of saying, "Ayyo, gidara uru kotumak vela," right? See, venasak vela kuwa that emotion part also starts to change. Now, you have to explore the intent of the accuracy of your negative attributions. Say, if your spouse tell something like something very very common. If she says, "Me, ඔයා දැන් වැඩි කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ නේ මාත් එක්ක," right? I mean, then she might say, ඔයත් එක්ක මට හරි දැන් තරහ යනවා. කතා කරන්නෙත් නැහැ. ඔයාගේ පාඩුවේ ඉන්නේ. Then we have to now then say, if you think in this way, මම මෙච්චර හම්බ කරලා මේ මිනිස්සුන්ට දෙන්න සැප ඔක්කොම දෙනවා. මට කියනවා සලකන්නෙත් නැහැ, කතා කරන්නෙත් නැහැ කියලා. Then you feel angry. Instead you must think, well, there is some sense in what she has told me. There is some sense, right? So you have to see the accuracy of this negative attribution that you have made. I mean, theoretically yes, but practically these are little difficult. Then explore the positive alternative thoughts to the disorder. මේ තාමත් මේ මිනිස්සයා නෑනේ. Now, what is the very thought comes to you? අදත් හොඳටම බීලා එනවා ඉතින් පාටි එක. Right? Instead of that, if you must have alternative thoughts. සමහරට කාර් එකේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් එනවා. පවුවක් පොඩි එකා වගේ ඉන්නකො මිනිස්සයා නේ ඉතින්. ඔය එනකොට පොලිසියෙන් නවත්තන්න ඇති. ඊට පස්සේ රාලාමිට බයයිනේ. ඔය ගෙදර ඉන්න මේ මීයටත් බය එකේ. පූසගෙන ආවෙත් නෑ මීයෝ ටික මේ එලවන්න. ඒකට I mean, see, alternative things, right? But these alternative thoughts, for the alternative thoughts, you have to work very hard. Then if the thoughts, say, the thought is accurate, then you have to change the matter to be. Now, say for example, your spouse always watches television, right? And during the weekends, that's the only time he has the time with the family. Nevertheless, this person, instead of being with the family, read the newspaper morning to night and watches television. Watches television, read newspapers, watches television, and in the night also either watching television or read newspaper. In the morning also like that. I mean, it's like a clock, right? Now, what is the reaction of the spouse? තමුසෙට මේක මොනවත් නැද්ද ඔය මේක කතා අපිත් එක්ක කතා කරන්න. I mean, these are the words. I mean, you don't have to be embarrassed. I mean, these are usual words, right? These are actually milder form of usual words, right? Now, what this last sentence says is that, I mean, instead of retorting in a very, in a very intense manner, she could put it in this way. Right? I mean, instead of that maladaptive behavior, she can adapt a very, very sort of positive, charming sort of a behavior, which is very difficult, but she has to get used to it. Otherwise, you can't tame the husband. Right. Then next is now here you will understand. Next is communication training. Now see, I do share my deepest emotions with you. Now she says that now you have to share our emotions, but this person says, I'm hungry and tired, and those are my deepest emotions. Right? Right. Then now these two are chatting. Last night, instead of watching a television, my husband and I got a long talk. We talked about television, right? Now I'm going to teach you about how to improve your communication skills. Communication training. Problems associated with poor communication skills. Lack of understanding. I mean, if you can't communicate with the other party, obviously understand. Now just go to the mirror and then talk to yourself, right? I mean, make sure that others are not watching you. Otherwise, you will be referred to me or some colleague of mine, right? And just talk to yourself and just think, have I understood my spouse? Or have my spouse understood me? Have you understood your spouse so far? What sort of person he or she is? So, for that to happen, there should be communication. Then insufficient attention to each other. Attention, right? So, if you have poor communication, obviously what is going to disappear is the attention part. Mind you, males before marriage, they want attention. But after marriage, the tide turns to the other side. I mean, this is obvious, right? Poor listening, and then conflict escalation, difficulty in solving problems, right? Then under communication training, expressive skills, right? The thoughts, feelings, wishes should be identified first and express them in first person. I mean, it's like this. ඔයා මාව කන්නවා ඔයා හින්දා තමයි මට ඔක්කොම වෙන්නේ කියනකට වඩා මේ අනේවාවම කරන්න එපා මට දුක හිතෙනවා. How nice it is, you know, I mean, like ඔයා මාව කනවා අප්පා. I mean, say second person, don't avoid second person, put first person. මේව කියන්න යන්න එපා. මේ මගේ මම කියන එක නෙමෙයි මොකද කියන්නේ. You must say මට දුක හිතෙනවා. That's what they say. And feeling statements. Now say, wife may ask, අද කෑම කොහොමද? හොඳයි. right? Or you can say, shut the cab, yeah, more, huh? I mean, don't exaggerate like that. She might think that you are lying, right? But I mean, feeling statements. You must always use your emotions, right? Even when you are talking, emotions, right? These are very important things. Your facial expressions, your body language, all matters, right? Instead of saying, right? Right. Then receptive skills. Now say, this woman is shouting, this man is telling me sex, right? Non-verbal listening, a very important thing, non-verbal listening. Oh, right? Instead of saying, hari, okay, manghagani, oh, hello, oh, okay, oh, hari, oh, can it, hari. No, that is not good non-verbal listening. Or watching television. Hari, okay, manghagani. Oh, okay, hari, mangkara, lamai, hari, itu nan mad hari, hari, ya. Now, that is poor non-verbal listening, right? Empathizing, very important thing. Empathizing means you must show the other partner that you have understood her problem. Hari, maka dan therna oya මොකද්ද කියන්නේ කියලා. Hari. Empathy. It's a very comforting thing. Empathizing. So, are you empathizing your spouse, or are you empathizing someone else? I mean, right? Whatever. Paraphrasing, right? Paraphrasing means, I mean, say if somebody is talking to you, you listen and then summarize it and tell them. Hari. Make a summary එක ගත්තොත් you have to use the summary word. හරි මට දැන් ඔය කියන ඔයාව කියන්නේ මේ blah 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 blah. හරි. කිය I mean it's soothing, isn't it? That means the other person is now completely is assured that you have understood the entire picture. Then the next the secret to a long marriage is never to be divorced. Then I am going to save our marriage. She says, you are gonna quit drinking, cheating and hitting me and go to counseling. So she says, go to counseling. Heck no, I am voting to ban gay marriage. Right? So I mean, all this depicts us to this problem solving. Now, one of the leading problems in our marriage is this problem solving inability. So when you talk about problem solving, right, you have to redefine the problem when there is no solution to the original problem, right? So it has two phases: problem definition, problem solution. Sorry, 1 minute. So now sometimes you argue without even defining the problem. Sometimes you go into arguments without defining problem. So when you are encountering a problem, both of you have to be very flexible, very open, very honest, and have some patience. Define your problem and break into small components and brainstorm yourself with solutions and pick the most effective solution and operate on it. Right. This I suppose you are looking at, and you see he's saying, I mean, with a lot of pride, he's saying, all this talk about same-sex marriage is crazy. Nothing beats the old style of marriage my wife and I have enjoyed for over 40 years. She's saying, we like to call it a no-sex marriage. Right? So, affection and sexual enrichment. Now, this is the most interesting part of the entire lecture, so don't worry, don't fall asleep. So now, before this, I need to talk to you about a triangle. This is called the Sternberg's 3 styles of love. sorry, I'm not taking too long, I suppose. It will be very short, right? So this Sternberg's three styles of love. Now, when we talk about sex, you must also talk about love. Love without sex is something like doing exercises, right? So always there should be love. So first of all, before we talk about sex or all about sex, we will talk about love first, right? I don't know whether you like, or would you like first love or sex? Okay, we'll talk about love, right? Intimacy. Love has three components: intimacy, passion, and commitment. Love has three components: intimacy, passion, and commitment. Right. What is intimacy? Intimacy is feeling of closeness. I mean, say you feel very close or cozy when you are with the other party, and I pray the other party is your spouse, right? Then connectedness. You get this sense of connectedness. I am connected to this person. I don't want to get disconnected, right? And then bondedness. There is an unusual bondedness. I can't be away from this person, depart from this person, because of this unseen bondedness. And then wanting happiness for other person, right? I want to make the other party happy. I am so eager to make the other party happy. Give and receive emotion support. I want this person to support emotionally. So all these are actually ingredients of intimacy. Then what is passion? That is the most interesting part. Passion, right? Now when you talk about passion, feeling that gives rise to romance, right? That's passion. Then physical attraction, right? And then sexual feelings, right? These are all the ingredients of passion. So I suppose you have passion, right? Then what is commitment? Commitment is boring, to be frank. Why? Decision to love a person. I mean, initially, that is. It's a big commitment to love a person, right? Big commitment, and then commitment to the person, maintain the relationship. It's also a big commitment. I mean, to maintain the relationship, to go with this person, not on the road only. I mean, in this life, right? It's a big commitment. You have to commit. So now, if you have only intimacy and passion, we call it romantic love. Now, if there is adultery taking place, which is something I'm so sure is something very, very infrequently happening in Sri Lanka. Big silence, right? Romantic love. In romantic love, fortunately, commitment part is not there. Right? You have only intimacy and passion. Right? Then companionate love. You don't have passion at all. You have only intimacy and commitment. Right? Passion part is gone for good. Now when you happen to take your silver jubilee in your marriage, gradually this part is also going out from your jubilee. Right? And then when you are going for their golden jubilee, I don't know what's going to happen. Right? So, companionate love. Then again you have fatuous love. If you have passion and commitment. Now teenagers, if you take their love, they don't have intimacy in a big deal, but very often they have more passion and commitment. They will commit. පටන් ගත්තා නම් කොළඹ මාතරට බස් එක යන යත් එක ගිහිල්ලා එදා හැන්දෑවේ ආව දාලා ගෙදරටත් දාලා ආපහු කොළඹට එනවා. Can you remember your young days? Right? Fatuous love. Right, now if you have, if you have all these three, you have hit the jackpot. If you have all these three, you have hit the jackpot. That is consummate love. You are at a very good wicket. You and your partner in sense your spouse, you have a very good relationship. But if you have only intimacy, it's like a friendship. Right? Friendship. Right? Because you have no commitment whatsoever and you have no passion at all. Friendship. Right? Then if you have passion only, if you have only passion, my God, you don't have intimacy or commitment, infatuate love, those people, the spouse of those people come to see me. Right? Big problem. Right? Then if you have only commitment, you have a big issue. Empty love. Right? Both parties will come and see me. Because I have to fill intimacy and passion into their empty love. Right? It's a big issue. Right. Now you are, I think, you have a profuse knowledge about love. So we will go into sex now. Affection and sexual enrichment. Big word. Yes. Yeah. Behavioral exchange. Now, if you want to, say, this is I don't know whether it's a good example because all of you are dentists, but I don't have a better example than this. So I'll try to get with this example. Now, there are things called habit. For example, brushing your teeth. And when you brush your teeth, you don't enjoy. Initially you might enjoy, but then eventually you lose the enjoyment. But can you wait without brushing your teeth? Can you? You can't. Right? You have to brush your teeth. Now, sex also is like something like that. Initially, a lot of excitement, but then that excitement has gone. There is a biological component. Unfortunately, it will be very lengthy if I am going to talk about that part, why this passion part has gone out, right? But it goes out. Then what happens is that, now the thing is now you don't enjoy, but if you don't have sex at the end of the month, end of the week, something is missing, right? Because your sex has become a habit in your life, right? So, what you have to do is, you have to either, you are more professional than me in dentistry, but I am ignorant, but I am going to, enrich that example. You can actually tell if I am telling something non-professional. Okay, say if you want to, again gain the enjoyment in your brushing teeth, you can actually switch. You can actually put a new, a different, what do you call, toothpaste, right? Or you can actually, you can change the mirror. Or you can actually wake up in the middle of the night and then start, today it's nice, right? Okay? But, still, you shouldn't change the brush. So, with that, in sex, behavioral exchange is very important, right? Behavioral exchange, communication, training. Behavioral exchange is something very important. The things that I told you about behavioral exchange. You have to train yourself to make the other person happy. But remember, sex is something that you use not to make the other person happy, but to make yourself satisfied. But then there are certain behaviors that makes the other person uncomfortable. That part, of course, you have to understand. You have to change that. Communication. Don't don't make it, something like a film cinema hall. And before the cinema starts, lights are there, fans, they are full of excitement, people are there, and people are chatting, full of noises, and suddenly, lights disappear. And everything is in dark until that picture comes, right? So, sex shouldn't be like that, right? Everything shouldn't, sex is something that should not happen in the pitch dark, right? Pitch dark is for sleeping purpose only, right? So, problem solving regarding sexual things also is important. So, all this eventually helps, because remember, this part I need to emphasize. Biologically, they say that there are neurotransmitters like serotonin, endorphins, and then norepinephrine, oxytocin, vasopressin, right? All these enhances your the passion part. But what happens is that after 8 or 9 months, you start developing tolerance to these neurotransmitters. Then again, after 2, 3, 4 years, fortunately or unfortunately, these neurotransmitters starts to reduce and eventually disappear. But there's a good news also. Good news is that your oxytocin and vasopressin and endorphins again can be brought up, not by associating another person, right? But having sex. When you have sex, your oxytocin and vasopressin levels increases. And they say that oxytocin and vasopressin has a unique quality where it increases the emotional attachment. There are researches done on animals, and since we are also part of animals, a little bit complicated, or not very complicated, but those theories may apply to us as well. Then again, past memories, wonderful memories. Your sexual enrichment, this passion part, you can increase by going into past memories. මතකද අපි ඉස්සර අපි අර කැම්පස් එකේ ඉන්න කාලේ පේරාදී මතකද අපාලම පාස් කළා මතකද ජිම් එක පාස් වුණා මතකද right see right see එතකොට you can actually arouse your past wonderful memories. Then fantasize, right? Don't fantasize other people, right? Fantasize about your spouse with lot of effort at least, right? Okay, fantasize, right? Then you can fantasize ideal affection and sexual situations, right? People are really good in fantasizing, right? And then enhance communication. While the process is going on, talk. Otherwise, what will happen is something takes place and then right? And eventually they wake up in the morning. So you have to talk while in the process and after the process, or even before the process as well, right? At least microseconds, at least, right? Then non-gender, gender-centered focus. This is little technical. Problem solving. Even you can actually discuss about, the lapses in the sexual relationships, the intimate relationships, and so on and so forth. And brainstorming. Both of them come together, right? අපි හිතමු කොහොමද? මොනවද patterns, right? අහසේ උඩ, right? හොඳයි. බිම හොඳයි. වතුරේ හොඳයි. අහසේ බලාකුළු වල හොඳයි. You can brainstorm and then pick the most practical and then go for it. අහසේ උඩ, right? So the conflict resolution. Next. So right, I will just quickly go through this. Right. Now negative interactions. Now this cartoon, it depicts that once again you forgot to change the toilet paper roll, so I used your towel, right? Now all these are negative interaction patterns. Now what they say is that negative interaction patterns are like steps in dancing, right? Always there is a particular pattern of steps in every dance. Likewise, your negative interaction also occurs according to a set pattern of steps. So they say that these are the set patterns. Emotion rational pattern. That is, one spouse is emotionally, very emotionally involved. The other person is rational, non-emotional and logical pattern. So the spouse may say, "Ane api ane yanko ane api yanko ane mang asai Anuradhapura," and the logical part says, "Ada mosam basis, ada me sulisulang sulihulaට කෙනා කොහොමද අපි යන්නේ මේ අනුරාධපුර එළියට බහින්න බෑ වැස්ස තෙමෙනවා අනේ යන්කෝ අනේ මට යන්න ඕනේ." Right? Then there is a negative interaction taking place, right? Then other is demand withdrawn pattern. That means spouse say ane yanko api yanko ekata yanko ekata. And the spouse wants to talk, but that person put a blank face and does not speak, right? So this is also a bad combination. Then you have relationship work oriented. That means one spouse is always engaged in career and vacation interest, whereas the other spouse is interested in relationship. So interventions, ideally you should identify the negative interaction pattern and then use problem solving to resolve negative reaction arguments. Identify the pattern of conflict escalation. Identify the early warning signs of this dance. You have identified. And thank you. I mean, it abruptly stopped, so I'm very sorry. I mean, that's how I give my presentation. Start with a lot of arousal and eventually abruptly I stop it. Right. Any questions?